Hi, and welcome back to Jake Breaks and Hot Takes. Today we got a few new things we want to bring on to here. My buddy Rich is taking a break from doing our podcast here, and my wonderful fiance is going to be joining us and taking over for the time being until he may come back. He's taking care of his education, getting his things on right. So my fiance is Tabitha, and she's going to give you a little brief introduction about herself.
So, like my fiance Zach said, I am Tabitha. I'm a huge Disney fan, and I was in a very abusive relationship previously, and I'm starting to discover new things about me. So, yeah, that's a little bit about myself. I try to keep everything positive and happy as well. I don't try to be too serious because you can't take life seriously. So.
And today we're going to talk about your self-worth and really just kind of going over a little bit of our first episode of really practicing what you preach and kind of moving forward and always trying to improve regardless of what kind of situation you're facing.
So before I met Zach, I did not have any self-worth at all, especially with my past relationship. I was unable to speak up for myself. I was unable to really voice any opinion, but now I've discovered that it's okay to voice your opinion, to have boundaries, and to set those, and to have people respect them, or at least meet them, because if you don't have that, people will run over you. And before I didn't have that because I was so timid, so shy, so nervous, but now I'm more like, okay, I have these boundaries and what I will and will not put up with. And if you cannot meet those expectations, or you cannot respect my boundaries, and you keep crossing them, then you don't need to be in my life.
Yeah, and that's something I've learned off of you a lot, and it's took me a long time trying to start putting those practices into place. And now after I've kind of figured it out, I'm also trying to pass it on to other people, and like my brother, and he's just it's an adventure to say the least. But everything you've really kind of helped me put the foot in the proverbial ass, kind of helped me go and accelerate the path that I've been on, and it's really helped me to kind of put my foot down on things I won't put up with, and instead of just saying I won't put up with it, actually taking the action to do so.
But that also comes into play where you can preach and tell someone to speak up for themselves and do things for themselves and create boundaries, but they themselves have to do it. You cannot constantly tell someone to do it. They have to do it. You can help them. You can tell them, like, hey, you should set this boundary if you don't like it. But they ultimately have to decide whether they're going to do it or not.
Now, if it's someone who has, no real experience, putting down boundaries and just rolling over?
I didn't have anybody to teach me anything, and I think this has become, from my perspective, I didn't have anybody to teach me those things. I didn't have anybody to help me when I was in my past relationship for those 5 years that I was in that abusive relationship to help me discover it. I had to discover it by myself because my ex would never go out with me anywhere. So I started taking myself out on dates and discovering myself. Because I slowly doing it, yeah, it sucked at first, but slowly doing it, I started to discover my self-worth and what I was worth and what I wasn't worth.
What would you say would be some of the things that would have really showed you that you had to discard on not being worthy of you?
I'm not sure what you mean.
Some of the, if you take a whole thing of characteristics of you, what are some things that you weren't willing to, you didn't want to be part of you to really show your self-worth? Like, some women are like, oh, well, I had sex with 50 other people, and that's not really a self-worth thing because it's a really trashy thing.
Well, men, see, that's the thing. Women cannot have sex with 50 people, but men can do it, and it's okay. But it, in my opinion, is trashy either way, whether it be a male or female doing that. I'm not sure what you're...
All right, so what were some of the qualities that you discovered whenever you were going after your self-worth?
So one of the qualities that I found when I was going after my self-worth is the first thing that I noticed, which it took a while. It took 3 or 4 times going out by myself and taking myself out on dates, was I was okay alone. I didn't need anybody, nor do I still need anybody to survive in this life. Because, and this is not me trying to be mean, but you only are able to rely on yourself, especially nowadays in this world. And I realized that from a young age beforehand, when my dad got deployed, that you only have yourself to rely on. And it's nothing against my parents or anything, but you have to be independent in this world. You have to discover that you're okay alone, and you don't need anybody to make yourself happy. You can do it yourself. Like a lot of people use alcohol and drugs as a coping mechanism to make them happy. And I also discovered that I didn't need any of that to make me happy, because there's other healthier alternatives to make you happy without sacrificing your health or well-being.
Yeah, and for me though, it was I completely went in the opposite direction of getting better, and that's because I had no real direction, and I just didn't know what I was doing with myself, and trying to find that self-worth. I would have to say delayed a lot of things. That should have been a period of time where I was really just taking inventory of what I needed to do, and really how to move forward and not go into that downward spiral. And I didn't have the right people around me to even remotely say, hey, you're kind of going the wrong way about this, maybe you should try it this way instead.
But it doesn't, not to interrupt you, but it doesn't matter if someone tells you what's right from wrong, because you as an adult know what's right for you, what's wrong for you.
It wasn't really a right from wrong.
You know what's healthy for you and what's non-healthy for you.
It's just I had no real direction of how do I live, what qualities do I really pursue, because I was that blue pill guy who was just bent over the chair the entire time, say, sure, I'll whatever you need. I was a slave to someone for so long, and then kind of being released from that leash, and then you're kind of you're gonna go hard wild, and I went hard wild for a while, and there was no hey, you know what, you might want to go and talk with someone, or this, you're living the wrong way, this kind of lifestyle is not the right lifestyle.
But if you always come home and you're living that lifestyle and you feel drained and you just don't feel good at all, just like with children, as an example, children who grow up in a very negative environment, okay? They either grow up to be just like their parents, or they grow up to be different from them and learn from the past and know what they don't want. They didn't have anybody to teach them that. They just grew up and knew that they did not want that because they saw it.
I think, yeah, but also, they saw that's right there's the teaching tool by itself.
Yeah, but also getting out of
because they're choosing, you know what, I don't want to be anything like this. And then they're going, you know what, then they're taking the steps to figure it out.
Yeah.
But the lesson is I don't want to be like this.
But what I did when I got out of my, when I was still with my ex, but I slowly started taking myself out because he never wanted to hang out with me. I discovered it myself. So you as an adult, whether you have those skills, whether you have someone to tell you or not, you have to have the self-discipline to do it yourself. Because sometimes you will not have anybody to tell you what to do and hold your hand and guide you like an infant. I'm sorry to say that, but that's, for me personally, that's how it sounds. Because you are an adult, you can have self-discipline and learn self-worth and find healthier alternatives, because you know right from wrong. You know what you shouldn't do and should do. And there's some consequences from your decisions that some people have to live with for the rest of their life because they didn't choose a healthier manner to go through, to go by. I took the healthier route. I took myself out to restaurants when Steak and Shake was still open. They closed it down, but when it was still open, I took myself out to eat there because it was cheap. I watched movies with my dog. I didn't really go out and have flings with just every Tom in the world. I basically slowly tried to discover myself with like taking myself out at the mall too, like just shopping. So you can do it yourself. You can choose some men that get out of a bad relationship, and some women too choose to go to the gym, work on themselves, and they become a sexy or handsome person, and they start finding their self-worth and looking good. And this is why a lot of divorced couples, when they see their ex or whatever, even if they were together just boyfriend, girlfriend, or fiance, and they get out of a relationship, and the person who is really drained and exhausted from that, and they turn their life around and become a better person, and they did it themselves because they didn't have anybody to guide them. That's why their partner wants them back, because they realize, oh, they were always that person, but they slowly discovered it because of the bad things that happened, or the divorce, or whatever it may be.
Yeah, but I think before all that is just a lot of times it comes from, speaking on that point in particular, it's just I think it comes from all the years of it would be like servitude or helping in other ways, and it's just being torn down so much. Maybe there's just those skills were already there beforehand, so they were just pushed to the wayside because I got my responsibilities here to do. I gotta take a back seat. I can't do this. I can't do that because of this. And that's one thing I don't think is a really true thing, because that's something I did. Anything I was working on or wanted to work on, I always made sure to take a back seat to take care of the other person, because that's what you're supposed to do. That's the thought process.
Well, I did that for my ex, but I also discovered my own self-worth by myself. So I would cook him his food. I would clip his nails. Yes, he was a grown man, and I did clip his toenails. I know that sounds sad now, and I know that. I would clean the whole house for him. He did not clean. Anytime I went grocery shopping, he would not help me with groceries, which is funny because the first time that my current fiance, Zach, when he helped me with grocery bags, I completely freaked out because I was so nervous about the reaction that I was so used to with him. But he helped me. But what I'm saying is, I had to do everything. I had to serve my ex completely. And if I didn't, there was repercussions as in physical abuse. And when I took myself on dates, I didn't have anybody to tell me what was right, what was wrong. People knew what was wrong, but I never told anybody. I kept that internally, because that's just what I do. But I learned it myself. And you can be a torn down person and completely weak and build yourself up without anybody around you. Without someone giving you guidance, without telling anybody anything.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to disagree with you on that. It's just I think if the opportunity is available and someone can at least give out their hand. Just I enjoy helping people, and that's like a way, as frustrating as it is, like with my brother, it's just a way I can kind of help and give back from what I've learned throughout life, and maybe it'll help the next person. It could be even a stranger on the street, or say if I actually did go to the gym for once in my life. I'm stuck in a truck, so there's no gym membership for me. But even at truck stops, sometimes it's just having a conversation with a dude. Might be like, not telling them, oh, this is how you do this, how you do this. It's just, hey man, just a simple conversation sometimes is what changes someone's direction.
Yeah, but you can preach to someone all day long. It still is up to them. Like my sister's friend Danielle, we all went on her bachelorette party, and her boyfriend, she's currently no longer with him, thank God, but he was not a very good guy. He did not want to hang out with her. He didn't want to go anywhere with her. He stayed in the house. When he dropped her off to go out on the bachelorette party, he didn't even say hi to us. He didn't even acknowledge me and my sister. He didn't help her with her bags, which was very weird to me, but I did have a serious conversation with her, and I only tell people once because I went through it, and let her know, like, hey, you are worth so much more because you're a good person, and you don't deserve that. And I told her once, and I said it's up to you ultimately, because you are the person in that relationship. You are the one deciding whether you want to put up with it or not. And with his brother, we've talked to several times about self-worth, about narcissists, because his soon-to-be ex-wife, hopefully, is a very not kind person. And his brother, after we talked to him about it, goes ahead and texts her and begs her, can we work it out? And to me, that shows that you're a weak person. And
Yeah,
especially when
and
people
his
are
big thing,
giving your
too.
hand to someone to help them, and they continuously do that, they have to do it that themselves.
Yeah, I think it's going to take for him, after the papers are signed, for any kind of change to really start to set in. And I think his biggest fear is being alone.
Well,
And
being
I think
alone
that's
is not the
why
worst.
I agree, it's not the worst. It's probably one of the better things. But he has never been alone. And me and Rich talked about this on one of our previous episodes. Of no one knows how to be alone in today's day and age. Because if you looked at it from childhood, you're being raised by theoretically parents or whoever, and as you get into your out of high school, you've always been around people. You've always had parents or someone taking care of you. Then, with the way the world is, it really preaches a lot about being in relationships and whatnot. But you go from high school to college, and you got your guidance counselors, you got mentors, you got people, quote unquote, showing you the way. And then from there, you get into a relationship, which is a very common thing. And then now you're out of college, and the entire time from age 0 to 25, you've never been outside of a thing. Oh, go ahead.
Just because you're in a relationship or with someone doesn't mean that you are constantly with someone. You can feel alone and still be with someone. Like my ex, me and him were together. We were living in the same household. I was in one room. He was in the other. But I felt alone. The majority of the time, 75% of the time with him,
What I'm saying,
I felt alone.
But I'm speaking pretty generally, and with that though is like not a lot of people really get that. Oh, how do I be alone? I've always been around people. There's always been someone there.
Yeah, but you can still feel alone and be with people. So what I'm saying is, you're used to being lonely. You're just used to that presence of a person there.
Yeah, and that's something I don't think Dustin. I think that's why that's Dustin's biggest fear is he doesn't know what to do. He doesn't have someone telling him what to do, how to do it, where to go to your job, like that.
You should not need someone to tell you.
No, I agree.
Anybody should never have someone tell them what to do.
And that's why I call him this blue-pilled guy, because these are what blue-pilled men do. This is why they're perceived as these weak men.
Well, because
his biggest thing is like, I was this nice guy, I did everything for her, I showered her with gifts, I showered her with attention, and it still wasn't enough. Why wasn't it enough? And I told him straight out, I was like, because you're weak.
Well, not only is it because he's not that strong of a person, it also has to do with if you're with a person who does not respect you, who does not value you, who does not really love you, who does not care, it's on them. It's on that other person, because she chose to cheat on him. She chose to treat him like shit. Just like my ex. He chose to do some really bad things to me. He chose to hit me. He chose to ignore me 99% of the time. He chose those things. Even though a narcissist will tell you it's your fault, you're the reason why. And you do slowly believe it, because I believed it for a long time until recently I got into therapy and have been on medication for it. But I discovered my self-worth. I knew what I was worth slowly, and it took time. It takes years. And it's still going to take me years because I got PTSD from it. And with his brother, it's going to take him years to realize it is okay to be alone. It is okay to not need anybody to tell me what to do, because I can do it myself.
Yeah, that's one thing, because I think he just does this to rile me up, because he knows it will drive me up a wall. Talking about, as soon as I'm not even divorced yet, and I'm already looking at dating, and like, dude, you're not nowhere near ready that stage, and then I start going off the handle, because it's not something you do, like in the middle of a divorce or really after a divorce. Is that during this time, it's like you work through the issue you're working on, which is the divorce itself, get through the bullshit, and then the next step is to recover and rebuild yourself. And I think that's something he has no idea. Like, this dude doesn't even have a budget yet, and he's telling me, it'll come around, I'll just work a second job. And I've told him before, it's like, if you don't even take these basic steps, you're just you're burning money, and you're going to do absolutely nothing for yourself. You're going to end up in the same situation, different woman, at different name. That's all it's going to be. Like, you do that, and like, all you're going to do is completely repeat what insanity is. And you're not going to, but you can't do that. But I think he does it just to rile me up, because he knows it angers the living hell out of me.
But for me personally, coming from my perspective, I don't baby anybody. I let them know what's wrong, what's right, what they should put up with, their worth, who I think they are as a person. But ultimately, if they don't listen to me the first time, or even the second time, like, I've talked to his brother 2 or 3 times already. I let him know my piece. I let him know what he's worth. I let him know what he needs. I let him know these things. If he continues to beg his wife, to me, or his soon-to-be ex-wife, hopefully, to take him back and to work it out, even though she's the one that cheated on him and she's the one that did all these bad things, to me, that's like, I don't need to constantly tell you, because you're going to go right back in that cycle, and you have to figure it out yourself. I'm not going to... Sorry.
Bless you.
I'm not going to hold your hand constantly. You're an adult. And you know what to do. Now, if it's a kid, that's different. If it's a child. But he is a 30-year-old man, 30-something years old. He's close to 30 or whatever. And he needs to start doing it himself. Because I'm not going to hold a grown man's hand through life ever again. And I think that just stems from my ex and the way I was with my ex. Because to me, it's like, whether it be a male or a female, you have to do it yourself. You have to do it yourself. No one is going to do it for you. I had to learn it. Danielle had to learn it. His brother has to learn it. And there's many among you that have to learn to do things alone and yourself. And just know that you're worth it. Just look in the mirror and tell yourself you are worth so much more than what you're putting up with.
Say Danielle seems like she had that foundation already. The only thing you did was you extended a hand. And that hand, she is what really could have been like the final piece in the puzzle. Go, you know what, you're right. Now this, and you gave her, like, this is what you do. Inadvertently, you did. And she went and did it, but you gave her a hand, and she's like, she followed that on her own accord, but she was actually listening to you.
Well, she listened to me, and I did tell her a heart-to-heart, and this is something personal that I really don't tell anybody freely. But I told her, you're going to look at yourself in the mirror, and you're going to realize that the person you used to be is no longer there, and it's going to eat you alive every day, which I deal with on a constant basis to this day, and it sucks. But also, there was another incident after I talked to her a couple weeks later, where her boyfriend, her ex, now ex, he is very homophobic and very transphobic and really that, and her friend has a person that goes by they, them pronouns, and, living that lifestyle, and he threw a fit because her friend was over and they were talking about that, her partner, and he was screaming and yelling and saying very harsh things. And I think that was the final piece to breaking up with them, because if someone doesn't respect who your friends are and what their lifestyle is, you may not have to agree with it. You don't have to agree with it. But you can also be respectful. Like Danielle, she smokes a vape, she does weed, and I personally don't like that stuff. I don't like doing that stuff, but I'm okay with people doing it because I know, you got to do what you got to do. But I'm not gonna scream and yell and holler and get mad over something like that. I would never act like that. But so I think that was the final piece to her realizing she needed to let him go.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it. And, you was sending your hand to help her out with that, and
also his actions. His own actions.
I think she already needed to know that she could leave. It's just, there was just one more thing that was missing. I know there was a few other factors going into it, and.
Well, she didn't want to move back in with her parents, and I had to move back in with my parents, and it sucks because once you're free as an adult and you're away from your parents, it's like amazing. Because especially if you grew up with strict parents, well, not so much my dad because he was never around because he was deployed a lot, but my mom, she's very strict on us, and like we didn't get to hang out with friends, we didn't get to go to parties, we didn't get to do any of that. So my freedom was everything.
Yeah, like
So
even when I
it
left
does
my
suck.
dad's, I left the day I basically got my diploma, and I was gone instantly. And even whenever I had to come back. I mean, granted, I wasn't living with my dad. I mean, I came to this house to help take care of my grandfather. But to me, I'm still moving. This is my home, so I was still moving back home, even though I was underneath my dad's roof. Like I had the freedom to pretty much do whatever I wanted, but it's like a kick to the gut having to go back because you feel like a failure.
Yeah, and I think that's what she struggled with. But also another slow thing that she started to say was that her boyfriend, her current ex, would not take out her dog, not take care of her dog, not even take the dog out to go to the bathroom. It's a simple thing. And
That's completely disrespectful.
for common people that love animals, like that's just the thing you do.
I mean,
Like,
just
this is
as
normal.
a human being, I mean,
Not all humans are the same.
I understand it, but just generally, it's just if take the damn dog out. It's not a hard thing to do.
He wouldn't even put food in the bowl, which is sad.
That guy's a piece of shit.
Yeah, no, I agree, he is. But she's luckily out of that relationship. But like with your brother, he needs to do it himself. He has to. She did it herself. We told her. He showed her his actions. Danielle got out of that relationship. I did the same thing. I discovered it myself alone because I didn't really have anybody. I mean, I have my family that are saying like, hey, he's not that great of a guy. And I think my breaking point to ultimately finding my self-worth was the very end of my relationship with my ex. My dad came to me and he looked at me and he was serious and he said, he never loved you and he never will. And if you get married to him, I won't come to your wedding. And I think that was the ultimate, kick in the ass that I needed. Because when my dad told me that, I got back to my ex's house. And he said he wanted to break up. And I was like, that's fine. He started recording me because I was very upset, obviously. Because I was with that guy for 5 years. I poured everything into it. So he started recording me. So I recorded a video back. Because I was like, you're not going to record me. I can record myself. And I now know that the reason why he did that was because it was part of control, part of him showing people how crazy I was to make himself look like the good guy when he was not. But ultimately that was the kick in the ass that I needed from my dad. And I'm slowly on that path to finding self-worth still. I'm not 100% there yet, but I know what I won't put up with in a relationship now. I know what I will accept. I know what I'm worth as a human, just in general. And I know my value.
Yeah, okay. Well, whenever we first started dating, I'll say I definitely had some self-worth. I didn't have the backbone as I should have when we first started dating. You gave me some of the tools to do so. And that's where I was. I was on a very, very screwed up way of recovering, and I was really just trying to rehash my same old habits again and again and again. And there was things I already knew I wouldn't stand for, like cheating, just generally cheating in general, and that's where my line was always drawn. But I always was so laid back about everything else, and that's where I got taken advantage a lot. And you showed me that, and that was why I've gone as far as I have. You kind of showed me that, and then people just proved it, and then that's whenever I started taking the actions. And little by little, I've improved, and I've increased that ability, and I have that self-worth. It's just having those boundaries, willing to say no, not letting stuff slide at all. And a lot of people don't understand is you don't need to be an asshole. You can still be a laid-back guy and have these standards. It's just you gotta have enough of a backbone not to let these standards pass. And that's where a lot of people, I think, fall into that trap of, oh, I gotta be walking around as this alpha type bro dude, and that's it, and just have this attitude all the time, and it really isn't.
Whether it be a male or a female, you don't have to walk around as an asshole or a bitch 24/7. You can tell a person no and be respectful, or tell a person, I'm not going to put up with that, please stop it, in a respectful manner. You can be assertive. And if they still cross that boundary and they still do it, and you tell them a second time, like, hey, I told you I do not like that. I told you no. I told you I did not want to do this. I told you I didn't want to take this. I told you this already. And they continue to do it, then you start to become slowly the asshole or the bitch that they would say.
It goes in stages, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like stage one, it would be like, hey man, just
chill out.
Chill. What this shit ain't cool. And then if they continue to do it, you got to get a little bit more aggressive. And if they still continue doing it, eventually, if it goes through the whole array of things, if it's with another guy, you go outside, you take care of your business. It's very simple. But majority of people don't want to fight. The minute you tell them, like, hey man, this shit ain't cool, they might push a little bit more, and you double down and show them that you're serious, they'll most likely back off.
Yeah, more than likely they will.
But you can't go from 0 to 100 of saying, hey, no, okay, we're going outside.
Yeah.
It has to be a gradual thing, because honestly, who really wants to fight? Especially fist fight. I mean, all he's going to do is lead to broken knuckles, hospital visits, and going to jail.
Yeah. So, but also, like, with that, like, if someone's calling you, oh, you've changed, oh, you're a raging B-word or a-hole, then that person is probably taking advantage of you and used to crossing your boundaries so much that when you do change and you do become self-reliant on yourself and find your self-worth and set your boundaries, and they call you that, and you evaluate why they are, and you really, like, look at it from their perspective and your perspective, and you try to talk it out, and they're still calling you that, then the problem is with them. Because more than likely, they're so used to crossing your boundaries and getting away with it, and they're not used to you actually saying, hey, no, it's not cool anymore, and I'm done, and I'm not going to put up with it.
Yeah, I completely agree with that statement completely. So, with all this talk about self-worth, what would you say before we kind of close this out? What would you say would be one thing you would say you have to do or you should do with finding your self-worth? Where would you start?
Where I started was taking myself out on dates. I know it's probably different for men, but even if a man just takes himself out to the bar, gets a drink, gets wings, going out alone and doing things by yourself, you'll slowly start to realize your self-worth.
Okay, I think that's an excellent place to start for today. Thank you all Ians for turning in, and we're going to have more episodes coming out hopefully every week. We're going to try and stay on that schedule. And thanks for tuning in to Jake Breaks and Hot Takes. Have a good day.